Hi, I'm Denver from Vida 180. In Vida 180, we rescue kids, we restore kids, and we create leaders. That's what we do. We are located in Chihuahua, Mexico, and we are focused on rescuing the abandoned and orphaned kids off our streets here in this state. We have 116 kids right now, but that's not where the story started. At the end of 2008, when Tina and I moved here with our kids, we have a daughter that's got cerebral palsy. They have a better program here in Mexico. So when we came here, we got to know the culture, the language, and we very quickly realized that there was a desperate need to work with abandoned children. 2010, we had a horrible drug war, which actually continues very strongly to this day, but that left a lot of kids abandoned. We saw a lot of prostitution. We saw them treated like trash. And many people didn't even see that as a big need anymore. It's like they were getting used to it. But we saw that something needed to be done, and the need was there. Somebody had to do it, so might as well be us. And so 2010, we started really thinking, what can we do? What can we do about the situation? It was on our heart to do something. 2012, we started registering the legal name to be a registered orphanage in this area. And then 2014, we opened our doors with 5 kids. We had 5 kids to start with. 2015, we actually finished our first home, which could hold 50 kids comfortably. And then in 2016, we opened our school. We realized very quickly, in order to rescue these kids that had been on the street, never had gone to school, we needed our own specialized school for that. 2017, we built staff house. We started building a barnyard for the area. 2018, we actually filled out the house for 50 kids. We built another place in 2018, dormitory with a school. And then in 2019, we opened our doors to the new school, the new dormitories. The girls had a separate dormitory. We now had room for 110 kids. By the end of 2019, we had 116 kids. Since I've always had a heart for kids, my wife and I, we've worked along a number of orphanages, and we realized that in many orphanages, the focus is on rescuing the poor kids rather than on developing the talent that is inside of these kids. For us, it was a real burden seeing that, and we had this vision: what if we treated these kids like we treat our own? Like our own kids, we love our kids. We're not just here to provide a home and food and clothing for them. We want to see them develop their talents, their God-given gifts. We want them to rise up to be men and women of integrity, to be a blessing to the world around them. But what if we would do that with these kids? Like these abandoned kids, they're God's kids. So if He is as excited about those kids as we are about ours, well, then the focus needs to be raising up leaders. So we started focusing on rescuing kids, restoring the kids, providing a family environment for them, and raising up leaders. We look at it as an investment rather than a donation. Our time is invested in these kids. So we are actually looking for a return on our investment. We want to invest our lives in these kids. We want to invest everything we do because we actually respect a return on our investment. We expect these kids to grow up, to be leaders, to be godly men and women, to be healthy in their mentality, not to have a poverty mentality, but to be leaders that will in the future help us change our society. Rather than looking them as a burden on our society, we actually realize that these are the solution to the problems in our society. So we invest in them knowing that they will be our future leaders. They will be our future political leaders, our business leaders, our church leaders, and invest in them accordingly. Not just donate to them, but invest in them. In Isaiah talks about in the Bible, God making beauty out of ashes. That's God's business. That's what He does. He takes what we look at as trash, and He uses that and makes beauty out of it. Quite often when I will travel through town or wherever I go, and I will see these little kids that, they're begging for money and dirty and stinking, and knock on your window and they ask for some money. You look in their eyes, and it used to be when our approach was more donating rather than investing. Then it was more like, oh, these poor kids, somebody needs to help them. I wish I could help these poor kids. But now I look at those kids and it's like, oh my goodness, I feel sorry for God, because look at all the talents and the abilities and everything He's placed in this child. And look, it's all going to waste. It's God's way of blessing this world. And I go, God, everything you put in this child, I feel sorry for you if that doesn't come out. So we invest rather than just give.
My name is Genesis. I am 15. This is my brother Paco. He is 8. My sister Andrea is 9, and this is Juana Iris. She is 16. When I was 9 years old, my dad died in an accident returning from work at a mine. My mom would always be drunk or on drugs. She was into a very bad life, and many people would come to our house with bad intentions. We were very poor, always sad. When I was 13, my mom died of cancer, and so we went to live with my oldest sister, who was already married. At her house, there were always people doing drugs and alcohol, and we would often get beat up. Juana Iris would find work to earn money so that Paco, Andrea, and I could eat. One night during a thunderstorm, Juana Iris took a blanket and escaped with us kids. I felt very alone. I felt like everyone hated us. But then we came to Vida 180. Here at Vida 180, I learned about my kind Father in heaven. He loves me. He gave his own son, Jesus, to die for me because he loves me so much. My life has changed completely. I am loved. I have family. I can go to school. My teachers love me. I love them too. I am no longer abandoned and useless. I love worshiping the Lord and singing more than anything else. My sister Juana Iris is also changed. She will usually get up early and pray for all of us in her dormitory. She learned to play the guitar. She doesn't have to go work anymore to provide food for us, but she still takes care of us. I am so thankful for what God has done for me.
The beauty that is made out of these ashes is incredible. And another girl I'm thinking of, she was 10 years old when she got sold as a sex slave to the older men in the village. She was worth nothing. She was sold, and all the anger and hatred in her heart when she was 13 years old, when she came to the orphanage, just burning with anger, burning with hatred, and her life just totally changed around. She is forgiving the people that did that to her, and she's just a changed life. You would never notice that when you see her now. It is an incredible honor if I think of it. God is passionate about rescuing his kids, and it's an incredible honor to be part of those that serve these kids, because these kids, their talents and the abilities and the gifts that God has put inside of them, the world would miss out if we did nothing. But now we get to come alongside and help them develop that, and it's just going to be interesting to see what will happen when the gifts and the abilities that God has put inside of these kids, they are released and they can actually flourish. So how do we do it? The home is a big thing, to actually create a family environment where they get to make mistakes, where they get to be part of the family. So the home is one thing. School is another thing, a very big part of that. We teach English in schools. We have music classes, we have computer classes. They've been into football, soccer, basketball. Employment is a very big thing. I'm super excited about the program that we do with employment, because when they're 16 years old, we allow them to go start working 1 day a week in a business somewhere. When they're 17, we allow them to go 2 days a week to learn how to work, so that when they're 18, the plan is that at that time, they can have a full-time career. So we actually have 2 kids that are over 18 right now. They both have a full-time job. This coming year, we have another 4 or 5 kids that are turning 18. So one by one, we help them work through the process of becoming young adults. So it's a whole community. It's not just one. It's not just an orphanage. It's a whole community. Church is a very big deal. They're involved in church, involved in youth groups, involved in serving, involved in being Sunday school teachers. So just before Christmas, we got this incredible gift of receiving a couple kids. Just before Christmas, Angie came in. Angie and her 2 brothers. Angie was just, we don't know, but between 10 months and a year and a half, she and her brother got abandoned at a store. So the cops came, they brought her over to our place. Then later they found her brother, who was outside in the cold. It was extremely cold at that time, with just a blanket. And she was very, very malnourished, but she's starting to put on some weight. Reminds me of a job we once did at a mine here in the state of Chihuahua. There's nothing but hills and rocks and desert and some skinny cows walking across the hills. But there was a company out of Italy, that came and they said, we believe there's gold in here. Obviously they knew, but a kilometer into the mountain, they tunneled in. And later a company came in and invested millions because there was a hole into the mountain where a truck could drive in, and apparently there was gold down there. But all the rest of us here in Mexico, all the people here, all they had done is walk over that mountain for hundreds of years and never saw anything. But all of a sudden, somebody else comes and they see gold there. That is just what I think of when I see these kids. These are the same kids that are looked on as a problem. They're the ones that knock on your window and their dirty little hands, and they're asking for money and they're asking for candy, and they're the ones that get into trouble with the law, and there's stealing going on, and yet that's the goal. That's a goal that God is after. That's a goal that our society should be after. Their talents and their abilities. That is what's going to change our society. And it's just been forgotten. It's been there forgotten all the time. And yet we get to come alongside and start mining that gold. So 2019 has been a good year for us at Vida 180. A lot of growth, stretched a lot. At the beginning of the year, February 26th, we opened the new school. We opened the new dormitories. So beginning of the year, we had room for 50 kids. After that, we had room for 110. In 2019, the focus of the year for all of us at Vida 180, our staff, was that it's more blessed to give than to receive. And we're really thankful for what the kids receive, but we realize that these kids, they get a level of dignity when they're rescued off the street, when they're rescued from the situations they're in, but they're receiving, there's only a certain level of dignity they can come to as receivers. But when they give, there's a new level of dignity. So our focus in 2019 was to watch our kids become givers rather than just receivers. So there was a number of things that we did. Our kids would put on youth events for others. So they did a number of youth events, what they did for others. They were able to lead and worship in other churches. Before that, there was groups that would come and say, hey, we'll come and perform for you. Now it was more focused on our kids presenting and helping others. Our kids were able to serve a meal to Licenciada Cynthia, the wife of our governor here in the state of Chihuahua. So they were able to serve a meal, do a presentation to her. A number of things like that. Our kids would walk along the streets and they would clean up the garbage in the little village. Our kids took care of the park. They would mow the lawn and maintain the local park in the town. And we just watched our kids become givers in 2019. One of the things in 2019 that was very special is an organization, Fichak. They offered to sponsor our kids so they could play football. So a number of our kids, I think 28 of them, went in and played football. And after winning the championship, 8 of them got their expenses fully paid so they could actually go fly to Mexico City with a group of kids and watch NFL. So that was a big thing. That was a highlight of the year for them. Well, actually, there was a bigger highlight yet. That was the 4 weeks of summer when Extreme Kids came out of El Paso, Texas, and they taught our kids for 4 weeks in the summer. So they had a chance to just play soccer with them, music, dance. And then after that, our kids were able to have a summer Bible camp for kids. They would invite other kids, and then our young people would serve, and they served as volunteers Bible camp right there at Vida 180. So that was very interesting. So another thing for 2019, we purchased land north of Cuauhtemoc. We made the plans to start expanding there. That happened in 2019. So looking forward to 2020, the 3rd of February, we're actually planning to start building the first phase at Gomez Morin, which is the land north of Cuauhtemoc, the 25 acres. The whole plan for the future is for just over 450 children there, plus a school for 600 children. Together with Santa Lucia, with the one we have, the whole project will be up to 600 children. For this year, the 3rd of February, when we're starting to build, that project is just for that one house. And hopefully by the end of November, we have that finished. It is almost fully funded. Fichak is one of the organizations that have come aboard, other individuals and businesses. It's not fully funded yet, so there's still opportunity there. But then we should have room for 270 by the end of the year. That's always very exciting to me. So we're looking very positively forward to 2020. 2019 was a year when our sponsorship program took off in Canada because we're certified. Vida 180 Canada is certified. Some of you guys out of Canada came along and started sponsoring children. What we did there, it was beautiful because that directly translates into how many kids we can rescue off the streets. And so we're also looking forward to 2020 being a year where we get registered, certified in the USA. We're working at that, so that's what we're looking forward to in 2020. So how does all of this happen, you ask? It requires a lot of investment to rescue, restore, and equip children like this, to raise up leaders. We have 23 full-time staff. Obviously, we'll have to hire more as we're growing and rescuing more kids toward the end of this year. But sponsorship is actually the bigger thing that is allowing us to operate. In Canada, we have the sponsorships divided to $60 per month per child. Obviously, it costs us much more per child to operate, but that's the way we have it divided. In the USA, it's divided into $50 or in Mexico, 800 pesos. So that is really the program that allows us to operate. And then there's individuals and businesses who come alongside and say, hey, we'll help you with construction. So, there's just generous people who come alongside and say, look, let's make this happen. Let's rescue kids. Let's raise up leaders. Let's make that difference for eternity. People who say, I want to invest my worldly wealth for eternity. I want to use what I can to help rescue these kids and make a difference for eternity for them. A lot of the crime that we have here in the state of Chihuahua, a lot of what we see is actually the result of the abandoned kids when they grow up. And it's just a chain that keeps repeating itself. But just imagine for once, if over the next decade or two, we could rescue 1,000 kids. 1,000 kids. The talents and abilities that are hidden there, we could take that out. We could allow that to flourish. Imagine if 1,000 kids were from the side of being a burden to society to leaders in society. What could our society look like? What could it look like if we would get together and 1,000 kids would get rescued off the streets? But imagine even this. Imagine what God thinks of us if we take care of what His heart is taking care of. Look, we have our own kids. You maybe have your own kids and you're excited about them and you're excited to see them develop. These are God's kids and He is as excited about them as we are about our own. But now we get concerned and we sacrificially and we get in there and we go and rescue them and restore them and we get interested in Him. Let's even imagine a little further. For those of us who are over 40, like me, how much time do we have left? Do we have 40 years? Do we have 50 years? Then after then what? And we're done with life here and we're in heaven. And then all of a sudden you see one person coming in after another person coming in and they come and they say, hey, I know you. It's because of you that I'm here. Otherwise, I would have been totally lost. Other than that, I would have lived a terrible life and I probably never ended up here in heaven. Because of you, I got to know a kind and loving Heavenly Father. It's because of what you guys did. What would that feel like? And what about once these kids come in and their grandkids come in and their great-grandkids come in and generations come in and we get to have a massive reunion because of what we've done here. I imagine that sometimes. That keeps me going. Not just keeps me going, that gets me crazy excited. This is all worth it. I love being a part of this. I hope you can too. Let's join our hands. Let's join our forces and let's go get every single one that we can get off the streets.